All right. I like the tieless hat today.
Goes up a little bit.
Yeah, I had to. I'm going to wear a hat one of these days. I just don't know what hat. But ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Welcome to episode 3 of the Know Your Personnel podcast. I'm Nathan Hawthorne here with my co-host, Jarod McElroy. Jarod, what are we going to talk about today? What's on the slate?
Yeah, we're going to get into the NFL as always, a few different things. We're going to talk a little bit of my Miami Dolphins. Some big news there. We're going to get into assigning some QBs who need some jobs into some open roles and see where we think they fit best. And then, we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up in terms of franchise tagging. I know Kenneth Walker's a big topic right now with the Seattle Seahawks and what his future looks like. And then we're going to talk a little golf. We'll wrap up what happened at Pebble Beach. I know that you have a rant that you want to get into, so we won't talk about it until then. But I think there's a few things we'll touch on with golf, and maybe at the end we might talk about the All-Star weekend.
All right, perhaps a rant, perhaps not for me related to golf. But first, let's go ahead and get into the franchise tag. I think two big names are kind of swirling right now. There's a lot of conversation around them. One being Tyreek Hill and the other one being Kenneth Walker and the Seahawks Super Bowl MVP, right? Mm-hmm. With Tyreek Hill, I know we had some brief conversation, and we kind of thought he was going to have a destination right away. He doesn't. Why is that?
Yeah, so with Tyreek Hill, my main reason for thinking he'd get swept up right away would be because it would be a push from his camp. You would think that they would want to get him on a team as quickly as possible because time can only hurt his situation. I don't think there's going to be a lot of money thrown his way when you have issues off the field like domestic disputes. And then on the field, you have an injury to an ACL when you rely on speed to not only make explosive plays, but honestly, all of his route running is done by getting open with speed and getting into little pockets as quickly as possible before the defense can adjust. So from Tyreek's perspective, I mean, you would think he would want to take a job right away. So I don't know if it's a matter of the teams haven't reached out and come to him with a position and they're going to kind of sit and wait and see what the market does, or if he's waiting it out. If it's him waiting it out, probably going to be a bad call. We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well, although I think it's money-based. I think you go from a guy who wants $30 million plus a year, and he's not going to get that now that he's been released. He's however old now, into his 30s, I believe. He's coming off the ACL injury. The year before that, he kind of had that ankle and the foot problem. He's been a little bit of a locker room cancer, honestly. And I hate to throw that word around lightly, but things weren't pretty in Miami, especially the last 2.5 years with some of those offensive struggles. So you kind of package all that up. If he wants, I feel like he's going to want something north of $15 to $20 million. And I think teams are looking at him, hey, like we want to put you on the Juju Smith-Schuster to the Chiefs at like 10 or 11. And I feel like that's where some of the friction is going to be coming from is he wants this, people want to offer this. And to your point, because he has so many issues both on and off the field right now, things are just not going to play into his favor the longer he waits to find a suitor. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seemed like Kansas City might right off the rip, oh, it's a reunion. We brought Eric Bieniemy back. Now we can get Tyreek Hill back. Everything's going to be the same. Let's call Kareem Hunt and make sure that we re-sign his contract. You know what I mean? Just really put the full band.
Run it back, huh?
Yeah, just put the full band back together. Obviously not that logical. But, I mean, there's got to be a team that looks at Tyreek Hill and is maybe trying to play that waiting game that wants him on the roster. They just don't want to be the first desperate ones to jump at.
Yeah. And it's hard to find a team that he doesn't fit on when you think about just schematically. Like every team could use a guy like him. So it's hard to think maybe that, he wouldn't find a job, but for the right price, like you said, if he really comes in greedy and wants this high number that he's not going to get, he's going to find himself settling. I don't know if you saw that graphic of the teams where receiver goes to go to die, but the Tennessee Titans, Julio finished there, DeAndre Hopkins went there, there's so many names of these older guys in this jersey, and he's going to find himself on the Tennessee Titans if he doesn't shape up and find a team friendly deal. Maybe with obviously everyone says the Bills because Josh Allen needs a weapon. Everyone says the return to the Chiefs. Honestly, I don't even mind the idea of him going to a Philadelphia or somewhere where because they're going to need to fill AJ Brown's role when he's gone. Just somewhere where
he could. You said when he's gone pretty confidently there. We might
AJ
touch
Brown's
it.
going to be gone, yeah.
All right. Continue.
I don't see a world where he stays. But
continue.
Nonetheless, there's so many openings for him, but it is going to take him taking a team-friendly deal to find himself in a win-now position with a team that's actually slotted to do something next year rather than one of those fringe teams. I know you believe in Tennessee, but any of these fringe teams.
Hear me out. Joseph Burrow picks up the phone and says, Reek, I need you here. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill. But you got to do it for $4. Because all of our money is already tied up. How team friendly of a deal would he take? This is just hypothetical. I think this is a fun question.
I mean, he made
how team friendly of a deal would he need to go somewhere like Cincinnati, where it would legit be like 5-6 a year?
Yeah, it's hard to think that he cares that much about winning, though. Like, I watched him in Miami, and everyone's upset when they're not winning, when things are going bad. He really didn't seem like he had a care in the world. He was out just all the antics, on speedboats, on race cars, just like having the time of his life, spending his money in this big mansion. Just like you don't see the like passion for the game other than him just going out and demanding the ball and getting mad when he doesn't get it. He didn't seem very pissed off every time they lost. So it depends. I don't know how team friendly of a deal he's willing to make because I don't know how much he cares about winning. So yeah, it really depends on what his motivations are. And I think we'll be able to tell pretty quickly once people start making some calls.
Yeah, no doubt. Today was that first day of the franchise tag being opened up. I'm sure as those start to settle across the NFL teams, we're going to see in the next week perhaps some movement from Tyreek. So maybe next episode, that's what we're looking at. Real quickly, let's touch on Kenneth Walker. Because Kenneth Walker, your Super Bowl MVP, although it should have been Jason Myers, there's been some interesting discussion between him and the Seattle Seahawks with the renewing or lack thereof of his contract. He even had Schneider in the middle of the Super Bowl parade saying, oh yeah, he was just trying to negotiate with me 3 minutes. Just this whole weird dynamic going on. And I want to know what your take is with Kenneth Walker right now.
Yeah, it's always easy to say that the grass is going to be greener on the other side. Like, hey, we got this great team. Our O-line's really shaping up. We just won the Super Bowl. Why would we go spend a bunch of money on a guy who has had injuries? He's shown what he can do on the field, which is pretty one-dimensional, which is just really focusing on running the ball only. Now, they're a running back by committee team, but when you see Charbonnet go in there, you kind of know that a pass play is probably coming. So it kind of makes your team easier to read. But then on the flip side of that, seeing how he ran the ball at the end of that season, especially in the Super Bowl, he really turned it on and he looked good. He did what he needed to do, and he's going to earn a job somewhere. Again, it's going to come down to the Seahawks are probably not going to be willing to pay him that much, and they probably see a lot of talent in the draft, and they don't have many needs to fill in the draft, so they can afford to spend those picks on a position like running back. So it'll be very interesting. It doesn't make sense, that marriage of the Seahawks and Kenneth Walker together, but I see him doing well in another role with another team. What about you?
Yeah, I think the same thing for Kenneth Walker. I think it's best not to go back to Seattle. They've made it clear just by this dragging out to this point in the season, like it wasn't negotiated midseason and certainly hasn't been tied up already. And at this point, they've probably found money that works. I really think that they have, but I think that there's other things, whether that be incentives or whether that be just the ownership of the running back room, kind of taking that back from Zach Charbonnet, because it wasn't necessarily pretty, especially the last 2 years. Granted, that was a little bit of injury kind of in and out from K9 himself, but I don't think that there's a solid relationship with this new regime that has come in, and it's probably best for him to bounce. And like you said, there's a lot of talent in this draft at the running back position. If you're looking into that second round, third round of the draft, you're looking at Seth McGowan, the guy from Kentucky. You're looking at Katron Allen from Penn State. Yeah, it's like there's talent, like you said, that they can afford to spend those picks on. So it might be just best to mutually part ways, because otherwise I think things are going to turn really Micah Parsons-esque real quick, where you start taking shots. You got to go on Twitter, screenshotting your notes app saying, this isn't true, these are the facts, and we don't want to get that far. Let's have a clean break and let's move on.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more. I think it's either the Seahawks are going to present a number, and I think there's not going to be much haggling being done. I think it's going to be, here's our number. We love what you have done for us, and we wish you the best if you don't like this number. So it's going to be pretty cut and dry, I think, and I think he'll be more than happy to find another job somewhere else, if that's the case. Yeah, I think it should be a pretty clean break, but man, yeah, we'll see.
Talk about a "what have you done for me lately" league. Mm-hmm. And even if you have done, done something for me lately, what will you do for me in a little bit more of the future? Again, I remember looking at that graphic in the Super Bowl. He was only like 25 or 26 years old, but it feels like he's been in the league since he was 12 years old. He's got a lot of miles on him already, so he's a little bit different. Let's transition. We're going to know more here in the next couple weeks, so we'll revisit this probably next week. Let's get into the quarterbacks. There are a lot of quarterbacks out there right now that need a team, but there's not a lot of quarterback needy teams this offseason, or at least there's teams that have kind of committed to a guy at least for the next couple of years. Who are the guys that you're looking at right now?
I'm going to just start with Miami. We'll talk to. Well, there's two names I want to talk. The first one, we're going to start with Tua. His fit, it's really hard for me. I really like. There's a lot of talks about, maybe him going to the Rams, the 49ers, one of these teams where he can go sit behind someone and kind of try and reshape that Sam Darnold path of, okay, let's take a step back. Let's get into a system that maybe build some confidence every day at practice. Maybe you get in a couple games depending on injury. You never know with Matt Stafford. You never know with Brock Purdy. So maybe a team like that I could see. If I had to pick a team that he's going to go start and play, I can't think of any, to be honest with you. I don't know any that would benefit him or the team necessarily, but maybe a Pittsburgh. I don't know. The cold weather. Yeah. Do you really want him in Pittsburgh? Like, what do you see in terms of a fit for Tua if he's going to go start somewhere?
Again, there's not a lot of quarterback needy teams, so you'd have to take a team friendly deal here and go somewhere like the Raiders. And we know that the Raiders are likely going to take Mendoza in the draft. Maybe that conversation changes depending on what happens. Now that Clint Kubiak is officially in the building, kind of working things around. But the Jets, you could argue maybe they don't have a quarterback. I know that Justin Fields is on the roster. Like we can't commit to that. And outside of that, like you got the Vikings, the Giants they're probably going to commit to Jackson Dart at least for the next year and a half. Like there's just not really anywhere for him to go right now. So I think you're on the right path of let's do a little quarterback rehab. Let's get with Kyle Shanahan. Let's get with Sean McVay. Let's go maybe even to the Colts with Shane Steichen and just kind of relax for a year. Turn off the brain a little bit. Work on rehabbing yourself, get the brain healthy, get the shoulder healthy, get the ribs healthy, and then just see where the chips fall in the next couple of years, because there's going to be another cycle in the next year and a half where there's going to be a ton of quarterback openings. This year it's just strange because there's not.
Yeah. Boy, would I love to see him on the Jets and see him twice a year. That would be music to my ears. Honestly, even the Cardinals opening, I mean, they pretty much made it clear Kyler's not going to be their quarterback moving forward. Go play in a warm place in a dome and just try and find some rhythm, like on any team. I don't know what. Yeah. Moving on, the second name that's really been tied to his replacement. I'm seeing Malik Willis get thrown out a lot, and I don't like it. And let me tell you why. Why would we go try and solve a cap problem by signing somebody who isn't proven to a $20 to $30 million a year contract? Because that's probably what Malik Willis is looking at this coming year.
Is he? I'm sorry. Malik Willis?
Yes. Yep.
Green Bay Packers Malik Willis?
1,000%.
Got ran out of
when
Tennessee,
he gets
Malik
signed,
Willis?
When he gets signed, for whatever reason, and trust me, I'm saying this because I don't believe the hype, and maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. Everyone is talking about this guy like he's the next big thing, that he's on some redemption path that I'm not aware of, but he looked okay for 2 games, and all of a sudden they're talking about $20 to $30 million to get this guy. I don't get it.
They ran the ball like 900 times those games. What are we talking about?
If Miami does that, I'm going to be out on this GM immediately. And he comes from Green Bay, so that's why they're tied to him. Hafley's from Green Bay, that's why we're tied to him. I get it. There's a lot of familiarity there, but if we go hand him $20 million even if it's 1 year, I don't get it. We're in the hole. It doesn't make sense. I don't like the fit. Now, you send him to a team like Arizona or one of these other teams where he's playing for a year. Okay, I get it. I like that fit. That makes sense to me.
Just not your team.
But no. Any other team, please. I don't understand the Malik Willis hype. I don't understand that whatsoever. We don't even need to talk assigning him to a team. I just wanted to nip that in the bud right there. No Miami, please. Thank you.
Consider it nib for me. Again, like I'm not sure. I was obviously not even aware of that conversation, and I'm supposed to know my personnel. And at no point did I even consider Malik Willis as a starting quarterback for my NFL team. High quality backup, yes. A Teddy Bridgewater, a Tyrod Taylor type bridge guy, maybe. But in no way, shape, or form am I going to give him 20, 30 million, kind of like that Baker redemption contract. Like, I'm just not paying that. I knew what Baker was capable of. Malik Willis, I have not seen nearly enough body of work to start throwing that kind of cheddar around. And again, maybe we're looking at this a little differently just because the quarterback market has skyrocketed so aggressively in the last couple of years. And so that 20 to 30 million number is kind of scaring us. But still, no, not today. Not now, not ever.
And
no way.
And I get being aggressive because it's the most important position on the field. You take big swings because you want to hit and you want to find the guy of the future. But
that's not a big swing.
I mean, $30 million from Malik Willis sounds like a big swing to me.
Well, right, but it's a conservative big swing. Like, the big swing is the money. The fact that you're committing the money.
Well, yeah.
Like a big swing, or a big swing would be like, hey, we're gonna go trade everything that we have and go get Lamar Jackson. That's a big swing. I mean, is that
I mean, when you're
happen?
already in cap hell, though, $30 million is a big price tag.
Right. But you get my point. The swing is big,
yes.
But that's like, you swing for the fences and you hit it right to the shortstop, you're out.
Yeah. It's the same thing. It's a medium swing. It's like drafting Josh Rosen at 10. Like, it's a medium swing.
It's a choice. It's a choice, no doubt. All right, who's next?
Next name we got. I actually really want to know what you think about where Kirk Cousins fits into the NFL after looking serviceable for the Falcons kind of in the back half of the year. Made him a little more exciting. Does he have a job somewhere? And where would that be?
Yeah, this is what we saw from Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago, right? You're now 2 years from that Achilles injury, your mobility starts to come back in full. You're comfortable in all of your drops, your sets, your steps, and you can actually start delivering the football. Your playbook isn't limited anymore. So I love what Kirk Cousins can do. Again, it's just one of those weird years where it doesn't necessarily make sense for a team to go and pay for Kirk Cousins, unless you're the Raiders, right? And again, Clint Kubiak, that offense could work very well with Kirk Cousins. If you want to take a moderate swing, like that's a place it works. And I feel like I keep saying the Raiders just because they literally have all the options in the world to be able to make this thing happen. I'm not entirely sure outside of that Cardinals, right? If you're Mike LaFleur, he feels like a pretty safe guy. If you think about Jordan Love, if you think about Aaron Rodgers, heavy play action, lean on the run game. Mike LaFleur, again, coming from that McVay tree, yeah, I think you kind of like that. So I think probably the Cardinals. And then if Clint Kubiak doesn't want to take any risks, then I'm thinking it's probably the Raiders. And those would be my top two choices.
What about Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh, I don't think happens. I don't think he wants to go to Pittsburgh. I don't think anybody wants to go there. I think that there's just been too much change, and maybe that would be to his benefit, right? He can come in and really make an impact as far as how the trajectory of the building. But if I'm going somewhere that had just had a lot of change, that's not where I'm going. If that makes sense. I'd rather go to a franchise where I can really, really change the course of it. Because Pittsburgh, you're still going to have that kind of hard-nosed defensive mentality. That's where they're going to spend their money. You know you're limited in terms of your offensive weapons. And it's just, I don't think it's going to work out as well as he would want it to.
Yeah.
Do you think Pittsburgh? Do you think Pittsburgh's a spot that could work for him?
I think it could, yeah. And I think, again, when I think of Pittsburgh and I think of how can they be successful and get back to playoff football, let's say in like 2-3 years, they're going to need to figure out the quarterback position. And one of those things is going to be not drafting a quarterback this year. And they're going to be tempted to. And especially in the first round, there's not going to be many people shopping for a quarterback. I know Ty Simpson's somebody they're throwing around. He's probably not going to be the guy. So if you can at least bring someone in the building that convinces your team that we're good right now, we don't need to draft a QB super high, and we can sit for a year or two before we make that swing in the first round. Great filler. He'll maybe work with McCarthy a little bit. I don't really know how that would look logistically, but I think we got to put somebody in. I mean, somebody's got to start at quarterback for the Steelers, and I don't think it's going to be Aaron Rodgers again. So I don't know many other names that would really make much sense there other than him, maybe Kyler. But that brings me to my next question for you. Rather than talking another name, I want to talk about a team for a second, and I want to get into the Minnesota Vikings. What do they do at quarterback, and why should Kyler Murray start there next year?
Excellent question, my friend. But they have to bring in somebody to actually compete. It's really hard to close the door completely on J.J. McCarthy. Again, his full rookie year where he was actually able to play and had a bunch of injuries, right? He was nicked up. I believe he had that big rib injury or shoulder injury throughout the year. Like it just makes it really hard to evaluate the rookie quarterback you have when he's been injured large in part of the first 2 years that you've had him. But if you're Kevin O'Connell, you have spent the last 3 years searching for something, and you just haven't found it. Ever since Kirk Cousins went down and you moved off of him because you decided you were going to draft McCarthy, and then you bring in Sam Darnold. He does great. You let him walk out the door. Now he goes and wins a Super Bowl. You do another year with McCarthy, and it just didn't really pan out because of his injuries. You have to bring somebody in who can legitimately compete. And if you have to sit McCarthy again for another year, I don't mind it. If you have to move McCarthy and maybe get a second or third round pick out of it, the worst thing, you need to do it. The worst thing you can do is just stay committed to McCarthy. It would be suicide for O'Connell right now. Again, you mentioned Josh Rosen earlier. What did Arizona do? They immediately got rid of him when it wasn't working and said, okay, we're going to go get Kyler Murray. And you found a little bit of success. Obviously, it didn't pan out fully, but they didn't commit. They didn't die on the hill of this is our guy, this is our guy, this is our guy. Is it great to say in the locker room? For sure. But at the end of the day, you're in the NFL to win games. McCarthy right now can't do it. You got to bring in a guy to compete. As far as Kyler Murray, I don't.
Tell me that's not a bad fit. Tell me why not. That seat is hot for Kevin O'Connell.
It is.
He's on a Sean McDermott hot seat right now. Like, you can't keep running it back without something happening. So why not take a big swing?
This would be a big swing. I would be worried about the head coach and quarterback marriage. As far as how O'Connell wants his quarterback to stand in the pocket and throw the football with a little bit mobility versus Kyler Murray dropping back, maybe can or can't see over the O-line and is throwing the football. Now, you want to talk about a connection that could work with Justin Jefferson? That would be vicious. And I know that you would make Justin Jefferson very happy with that. So you've got the receiver talent. If you can bring in Kyler Murray, you get yourself a running back and really start to enforce that run game again and stop just doing these rent-to running backs that they've been doing the last couple of years, then I think you got a little something.
Yeah, they're cooking something.
I'm talking myself into this. I kind of like this
That's
Kyler
what I'm
Murray
saying.
idea. But
That's
how
what
much
I'm
is it going
saying.
to cost him? I don't know.
Yeah, but again, like I said, I think you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. And when you get into the QB carousel, it gets very dangerous. They had Daniel Jones on their roster last year. Don't forget that. And they let him walk.
Yeah.
So the quarterback's a hard position to figure out. It's hard to solve it. But when you're on the hot seat, when you're Sean McDermott, who just got fired, when you're Zach Taylor's hanging on by the skin of his teeth, like there's so many openings right now that they got to make decisions that actually work or at least push your team in the right direction, or you're going to see a lot of the same next year where we have 10 to 12 head coach openings pop up. So KOC, just keep an eye out, because he might be next if they don't do something.
Yeah, the ball is very much in his court. I mean, could you call Kirk and say, "Hey Kirk, come help me out"?
Well, that's what brought me to this segue. Was there's a lot of people saying, Kirk, that now you're going backwards. If you go backwards and you go get Kirk and then they just are a dumpster fire, then all of a sudden you're trying to, like, you've ran out of options. You put all your cards out there and you're telling me that your tank is empty and there's nothing left to do. Justin Jefferson's halfway out the door. He's ready to request a trade at any given moment. So you bring him Kirk Cousins back, that might push him over the edge. But I digress. Daniel Jones is another name that is out there. I mean, in terms of like actual viable starters, again, he's coming off an injury. He looked great last year when he was healthy. I think
Indiana Jones, baby.
Yeah, a return to Indianapolis is probably likely. But let's just pretend we're in a world where that's not the case and it doesn't happen. Let's just say from a financial standpoint, what other teams do you like him on? Where do you see him fitting in?
I don't really like him on other teams. If I'm being 140,000% honest with you, I'm just not convincing him totally as a quarterback still. I think about the success that he had in that first year with Brian Daboll, like a little bit of change of scenery. You kind of figure out some things, and then the next year the tape's out on what you're good at, and it's game over. And then Shane Steichen, again, things weren't necessarily all smooth, right? And you gotta remember, Jonathan Taylor was having 3 touchdowns a game when he was at his peak. So was it the run game freeing up Daniel Jones and Daniel Jones was just serviceable, or was he really being the most elite quarterback that he could be? Now, he was making great throws, he was using his legs, and I don't want to disparage the season that he had up until his injury, but those last 4-ish games weren't very pretty for Daniel Jones. The NFL gets tape on you, and they're going to take away what you want to do. And again, Daniel Jones' accuracy can tend to be a problem. You take him out of the guidance, if you will, of Shane Steichen, I think you're going to run into some trouble again. So I don't necessarily trust him on another team.
Yeah. I have Indianapolis as his best fit anyways. I just wanted to see if there's anyone else you were going to throw out there, but I have Indianapolis with the signing of somebody that's not Anthony Richardson. I think they need to let him go and they need to let him find a new path. And I think they need to bring in a Russell Wilson or a Jimmy Garoppolo or somebody who's just filling the role of starting quarterback while we see what happens with Daniel Jones rehab, and then immediately it will make 100% sense to give him the starting job when they come back.
Jimmy.
Why not? It's got to, again, you have to run somebody out there. And I think a lot of people forget, like, what are their other options? I mean, they got Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. Like, he can't even play. They had to go call Phillip Rivers to come and play quarterback. Like, their options are not, they're pretty slim. So, like,
you know how disrespectful that is to be like, yeah, we're gonna call.
Just saying.
We're gonna get a guy off the couch.
The quarterback room is much more complex than just QB1 sometimes, and this is one of those situations where if you're gonna justify bringing him back and paying him money, you have to have somebody you're bringing him back with, and it's got to be like a 1 to 2 year deal that they're giving Daniel Jones to, like, okay, we're giving you the chance to come back, prove yourself again, and then we'll talk money.
I'd say, like,
even if you give him. Yeah, even if you give him like 40 to 50 million, right? Let's say you do that for 2 years. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't work out for you. And then you can talk extensions. So that's all I had in the quarterback world. Was there any other names you wanted to talk about, or any other teams or openings?
No, I just think that there's a lot of high quality backups right now that are kind of making their rounds throughout the NFL, and we've seen over the last couple of years how important a high quality backup is in the NFL. So, like, you talked about Malik Willis, I think he's going to be a very high quality backup somewhere. Marcus Mariota, Russell Wilson, I think needs to fall into that role now, and it needs to be said that he's no longer a starting quarterback in the NFL. Arguably played his way out of the Hall of Fame. Mac Jones. He's a guy that if you can peel him out of San Francisco somehow, he'd be a guy that you could use as your high quality backup, or even as one of the bridge guys for a year, half year, whatever the case may be.
Miami.
We'll
get a high pick.
Will Levis is a guy. You talked about Anthony Richardson. Will Levis is another guy who probably just needs a fresh start. We're not sure what his talent's going to look like or how he's developed fully. But again, like, he's another guy that, you get him on your roster, you just kind of see what kind of talent he has, and then you go from there. But nobody else in particular to talk about. I just think it's going to be interesting to see what some of these teams do, because we know that the seats are hot, especially if you're a new coach, but you can't make the wrong move at quarterback right now, more than ever. There's just not enough top end talent to make the wrong move. So you got to make a high conviction play, and you just you got to make a big swing.
Got to roll with it,
and it can't be the wrong one, which sucks. But you got to do it.
All right, let's talk some golf. Let's get into it a little bit.
But before we talk about Pebble Beach, I played the other day, and when you just get out there, and it's like you've never swung the golf club before. You're standing over it.
Been there many times,
and it's not comfortable. And then you start to find some comfortability, and then it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing wrong. Let me just correct it real quick. And you can't do it.
Mm-hmm. You're kind of in that purgatory right now, huh?
And I'm living it. I'm breathing it. It's just on my mind. I think I got to not touch the clubs for a while.
It's a mental break. You got to take a mental break.
I'm like, all right, good tempo here. And I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I just had to just, all right, back to the
Pebble Beach.
To the real news of Pebble Beach.
Yeah, so, obviously the headline, Colin Morikawa coming back, finally getting a win under his belt and kind of breaking that cold streak. The field was pretty competitive. It was tight the whole weekend. I think the scores told a different story, in my opinion. I thought, honestly, it was a pretty boring watch. I think the pace of play issues that we were dealing with, the PGA Tour's in an interesting position where I feel like slowly but surely all of these week-to-week events are getting more exciting. They're becoming more watchable. They're certainly more accessible now that they're on ESPN+. This was just one of those cases of like, okay, I get it. It all makes sense, but why am I not entertained by what I'm watching? And maybe it's just the weird Pebble Beach Pro-Am where you go and you play the other course why I'm blanking on the name of it right now.
Spyglass.
Spyglass, yep. You go play Spyglass for a day randomly, and then you get back to Pebble for 2 days. It's just kind of a weird tournament. Um, when I saw the purse, 3.6 million for the winner that's a pretty hefty
Signature
price
event,
tag.
baby.
So they're ready to spend money. What did you get out of this weekend, and what did you think about just from an entertainment value? Did you enjoy the watch?
Number one, excited for Colin Morikawa. He had fallen so far from grace when he got on tour. He was the darling. He was winning everything, and you thought this guy's about to be on tour, winning events forever. And then he has that massive dry spell. So excited for him to get that win. There wasn't drama, and I feel like this was the difference. And I think that a lot of these events are exciting coming down to the wire, like we saw a couple weeks ago with Waste Management. But because nobody was in the same group, it kind of made it weird. You had Scotty finishing at one time, you had Minwoo finishing at one time, and then you had the guys on 18. So it wasn't like this back and forth battle, guys one group apart. It was, okay, he's in the clubhouse, and then you're just watching the next guys hit their shots. And then eventually, there's only 2 or 3 groups on the course. They take 8 hours in between shots, and so there's just no golf to show. I think that's one of the biggest gripes I have with the PGA Tour during their broadcast is in the final round. Yes, we want to see our leaders and we want to see the names that we love, but there is so much golf happening and it feels like they only show 1 out of every 30 shots. And I get, the cameras aren't everywhere for most events, but there's certainly more cameras out there and more golf that you can show. And we know that on broadcast, you can hold a clip, 20, 30 seconds. Just show me more golf. That's what I'm sitting down watching. I want to see more guys hit shots. I don't care if he's not in the lead. I don't care if he's 4 or 5 strokes back and can't win. I want to see excellent golf being played. Again, but just to the point of last week, and I think the events are more exciting, and when you start throwing that kind of money, these guys are really showing up with their best. But yeah, this week was just weird because of the guys who were in contention were just strangely in different groups. So you didn't see anybody going shot for shot. And so it just kind of made it weird.
And the other thing is, I feel like I'm watching they're cutting from screen to screen of just people putting. Like they're just showing them on the green. They're not showing their shots getting to the green. So we're just cutting from, oh, this guy's putting for birdie. Oh, this guy's putting. So we're jumping around from putt to putt. And it's like, okay, but you're not telling the full story. Like you said, show us more shots. Show us how they got there. I don't know if you remember the Masters last year, Rory McIlroy, but the best probably 4 shots I watched of golf all year long were approach shots by him, and they had nothing to do with putts. So it's show us the entirety of the tournament, like you said. If there's not organic drama that we're seeing, at least like manipulate the production to make it seem like there is from our perspective. We're not on the course. We don't know.
Spin something up. I don't know.
Yeah, there's certainly some improvements that can be made in those regards, but all around, I mean, like I said, it was good golf. Obviously a historic course. We know all the holes. Love watching them play in the elements. All those things are great, but that last hole was egregious, man. I get it. That poor guy was struggling to. I don't even know his name. The guy was in the second to last group, and he was struggling to get off the hole. Sailed the green onto the beach. Then they had the whole discussion about where he could put the ball. Clanked it off the rock back into the water. Had to hit it. Had to go back to the fairway. Colin Morikawa. I think they said he waited 35 minutes from when he hit his tee shot. Fairway. Yeah, from when he hit his tee shot to when he actually got to hit his approach. And then to dial up that approach, man, that was masterclass.
Just a buttercut to the back, not even worried about the water, yanking one left. That's a ball striker right there. Shut up, Colin.
It was beautiful. So, yeah, I think, again, we'll see how the year goes on, but that was a tough watch.
It was a tough watch, but here's the deal. What I love to see was, again, ball strikers being the best up there. Guys who consistently rank high in ball striking, and guys who can, again, play in all weather. I think I kind of briefly talked about this last week. Like, you want to see guys that can hit all the shots. Colin Morikawa can do that. Does he love to hit a draw? No, but he can. Minwoo Lee can straight up hit the ball a mile, and not just a mile. He can hit it with accuracy. Scotty Scheffler's also up there. Tommy Fleetwood was up there. Hideki was up there. Like, there's this packed leaderboard of high quality golfers. Akshay, again, like, I loved seeing the names up there. And I just don't think enough of them were talked about. Like Shane Lowry was creeping up there. Rory McIlroy, I feel like I didn't see a shot from him the entire week. I know that he wasn't in contention, but I still want to see 17 under, a couple shots off the lead. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but goodness gracious, man, it's good to see a guy like Colin win in the elements when you know that the ball striking is going to be at a premium, and then it's just did the rock roll in. Loved it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just use that as our segue. Every name you just said there, Colin, Scotty, even Shane Lowry, Rory, all of these names, these are all guys, Colin specifically though, who's a late adapter to the mallet putter. What do you got for me on this hot topic right now? Are blades dead in golf?
Unfortunately, blades are dying, but you know what I think is dying? The desire to be perfect. That's the biggest problem to me, and this is how I'm going to start my rant. God forbid you just work so hard at something that all you can do is hit the center of the face and have a perfect stroke. And I can't stand the look of mallet putters. You know this. I can't look down at one. I have to have a blade putter. And I'm not tour status putter. But the thing is I feel like, and this goes larger into golf equipment, they're doing everything that they can to make the golf equipment more forgiving, which 100% makes sense. That's what you want. That's how you get the most guys playing your stuff is, can I do what I need to do, but then get maximum forgiveness when I don't quite hit the center? I get it. But something has to be done about just building in these handicaps for golfers, whether that's blade putters, whether that's the driver. Shout out Twist Face Technology. I used it over the weekend. I love it. Straighten out my hook, straighten out my cut or my fade, right? But there has been such a lack of precision among so many guys because they can get away with it. Right, if you used to mishit the older drivers, even down to the M2, right, one of the first, carbon heads. Even if you go back that far, like if you mishit, like that ball's way off the fairway. Or if you mishit, your blade putter, if you leave that blade wide open, your putt misses bad. Like, where's just the responsibility to control your stroke, whether that be the putter, whether it be the driver or the irons? Don't even get me started on muscle backs and cavity backs. Use blades. If you're a professional, learn how to hit the center of the face. That's what they're paying you to do. Shape shots. But I see all these guys moving to cavity back irons. I'm like, yeah, well, it's just for my longer irons. Gives me a little bit more forgiveness. No. Hit the center of the face, and you will love yourself more if you just dedicate yourself to hitting the center of the face, and it's going to make you better in your short irons, your wedges, etc. I want to see that wear mark. Show me the wear mark. Show me what you got. And I get that the money drives it. I'm going to take the maximum forgiveness so I don't lose strokes and I can make all the money I can, because only the top few guys are actually making money. Everyone else is living out of their vans, going from stop to stop. But I want to see guys love the game so much that they're just committed to making everything perfect. And this is why I'm actually excited about the golf ball rollback a little bit. I used to not be, but I think that taking the distance out of it, making the ball a little bit spinnier, like that's how you see Tiger the artist. That ball spinning. I don't want to go back to wound golf balls, let me be clear, but you see him be able to hit these big slices and cuts and work the ball, but still hit the center of the face. That's the stuff that you want to see. You don't want to see guy hits a nice tight draw down the fairway and hits a flip wedge from 85 yards. I'm tired of seeing it. If you miss the center of the face, I want to see you in the rough, and then I want to see what you can do out of it. And if you're in the fairway, I want to see if you can control your spin. Can you hit your numbers in the best conditions and the worst conditions? And I feel like so much of the variability has been taken out of golf because of the equipment. I'm done.
Okay.
Just decide to be better, because I want to be better.
I hear you.
Just decide to be better.
Here's what's going to happen though is this will go down in KYP history as our first ever counter rant. I let you go. I let you have your moment. I didn't interrupt you. Now let me go. Here's my rant. I'm sick and tired of old heads in golf, and let me tell you what. The traditionalists, the people who come in here and they complain about things like forgiving clubs, for mallets, for just any sort of change in the game of golf. I'm going to throw some stuff at you here. We're going to start with one. You do understand that the NBA, they used to wear Chuck Taylors to play basketball in, correct? Yet somehow their gear has changed. They have new technology in shoes. They have new basketballs. Everything has changed about the sport from back then to now. Nobody's complaining about it. We're going to talk tennis for a second. They used to use wood rackets. Now they use a graphite composite racket. They're able to hit the ball a lot harder. The game, from a viewer's perspective, has grown, and a player's perspective has grown. Let's get into baseball. They used to use ash woods, and now they're in maple and birch, and experimenting with even the torpedo bats now. Another sport where, the gear's changed, what they're using has changed, but, all around performance has increased. NFL, now most of the NFL technology changes are more focused around safety, so it's less performance based, but even their cleats have changed. Some of their pads, they're not wearing those giant bulky freaking pads and the weird helmets and whatever. I mean, if you can't tell me they're not moving faster now than they were in the 60s, I think you would probably disagree. So why is it that golf is the one sport that we want to keep the same and will not allow to progress? Because I think in sports they've multiple different responsibilities, but a couple of the biggest ones are, one, providing the most entertainment and with the best products. And the second is growing the game through availability and inclusion. So if I myself am going out every single week and playing golf, and I have to hit a freaking blade because some old man said that that's what they used to play, and I have to hit some crappy ball that goes 75% of the distance of a regular ball, and I have to, what are we doing here? I don't understand that. I don't understand why golf specifically is the one sport that has to stay the same. And every time there's any sort of change, there's all sorts of pushback, blowback. It's the biggest news. Everyone's talking about this stuff. And then it also, to touch on the point of distance in the game, I think it comes down to lazy course design. I think that we do need to reach a maximum in terms of okay, people are hitting the ball too far. We need to start adding some regulation to this, because we can't extend the courses too far, because that's more land, and then logistically it makes a lot of problems for the different courses. But how we're making courses harder, in some cases, whether it be the greens, whether it be the rough around off the fairways, more penalizing lies, just different things like that. I get it. There's only so much you can do, but that's what makes the really good golf courses that we watch majors on different from TPC Summerlin and some random weekend, or TPC San Antonio. Those are what make those courses hard, is they are hard courses. So if somebody hits the crap out of a ball, so what? They're probably not going to score if they don't have the rest of the game ironed out. So that's my rant. I'm tired of the old heads. We want to watch better golf. We want to watch people play well. We don't want to watch people struggle. We don't want to struggle when we go out and play. Sick and tired of it.
I'm gonna
grow the game.
I'm gonna counter the counter rant here.
Okay.
In basketball, the ball has been the same size for who knows how long. Has the material changed a little bit, but has the hoop changed height?
No, but the hoops have changed.
No, so you still got to get the ball into that hoop, right, from 10 feet.
You still have to get the ball into the hole in golf.
Right.
You're making no point. Everything about
but
the
what
court
I'm
has
talking about,
changed.
the court has hardly changed. You've added a 3-point line, and you want to talk about shoes. Shoes are
we're talking
not
about the
same.
gear and what we're using to play the sport.
Are you gonna talk about shoes now for golf? How shoes from the 19 whatevers are different than performance golf shoes now?
You can, yeah, it's great. I'm glad they've changed. Do you want to go back to them? That's what you're saying.
What the shoes didn't require precision, and I think that's maybe where we're going different here. There's a precision with the game of golf that I think needs to be preserved, and when you start getting too far away from the need from precision,
tennis and baseball would be a better argument than.
But baseball, weren't they? Didn't they find out that the MLB was juicing the balls to try and get more home runs, and then they had to unjuice the ball, and then they had to take away the seams on some of the balls for the pitchers because there was too much movement?
Yeah, a lot of change in the gear. Yeah, you're correct. That furthers my point that changing what you are using and changing and adjusting the game to the different times is okay.
And
And
everything
at the
that
end of the
you've
day,
mentioned, everything you've mentioned is a versus, right? For the individual, the golfer,
mhm,
while going against others, it's still the test of yourself in that moment. And are you precise enough?
I
We're gonna
hear
have
you.
to we're gonna have to agree to disagree. We're gonna have to agree
All
to
right,
disagree.
that's fine. We'll agree to disagree on this one. Boy, am I sick and tired of the old heads of golf. You know, it's exhausting. Where they're bringing fashion into the game. The game is changing.
I
The
like
kids are
fashion in
playing
the
better
game.
than they ever have before. There's so much to golf that
Yeah, with way better
I'm
equipment.
excited
I
about
love
the
it.
future. And yeah, let's stop complaining about what's changing. That's all I'm saying.
What I
That's all
want
I
is
see
that
in the news.
I want guys to want the precision, like Scotty Scheffler.
Okay.
And then also, did you see that Rory? He got rid of the cavity backs already. He's going back to his blades for the rest of his
Yeah.
irons.
Well, he
Yeah,
doesn't
'cause
need a cavity bag. That's a different conversation. But,
And that, but that's what I'm saying.
but they
like,
should
the
still
guys,
exist for some
the
people.
guys who like really, the guys who like really get it.
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap this thing up. We do have to quickly shout out Dame Lillard for 3-point comp winner. All-Star Weekend was a snooze, man. I tried. I watched some of it. Just the whole thing. Outside of Damian Lillard in the 3-point competition, everything else sucked. The dunk competition was terrible. The games, like, I get it, they're trying to mix it up and do this whole like 3-team tournament. Again, good for them for trying something new. Didn't work. The lack of effort is terrible. At some point, you got to pack it up and just either force people through incentives or something to get some of the big names in the dunk competition again, or just something to spice up the weekend a little bit. Did you watch it all?
I
You
didn't
get
watch
anything
any
in?
of it. The only thing I saw
Yeah.
was Dame, and I think I watched his final clip. I can't tell you how many times. I'm just gonna tear my I love you. And that's it.
Nothing was better than that. That was a homecoming. That was felt good to see him in a Blazer uniform again, see him shoot again. Like, it's going to be interesting to see him coming off of this injury, because that's going to be a lot of what his life's going to be like. It's going to be stationary shooting and probably less explosive, and it's going to be kind of sad, but there's a lot of people who've made those changes after coming off an injury that have succeeded for another few years. So it'll be interesting, but man,
Mike
can
Miller.
you shoot the crap out of that thing.
Mike Miller had a hell of a career just spot up shooting, baby.
Yeah, okay. All right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for episode 3 of the Know Your Personnel podcast. Once again, I'm Nathan Hawthorne. This was Jarod McElroy. Thank you for joining us. If you've made it this far, make sure to drop a like. Make sure to subscribe. Leave a comment. Talk to us a little bit. If you don't like our faces, check us out on Spotify. We're there too. We'll drop a link to the Spotify, and you can listen without our faces, but I doubt you'll want to do that. Once again, everybody, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week.